It's 2025 yet you still find yourself looking bad with makeup. Then you compare yourself to these models who hire makeup artists to do their regular days. Of course, they're going to look good in pictures. But no worries, I am actually a new aspiring makeup artist, and therefore I'll teach you all the things that I've learned. Trust me, makeup was not my friend a few years ago, and I had to deal with it on my own. And of course, a YouTube university. I was also in a place of not knowing it all. So I know, I learned it the hard way. If you don't want to sit through the whole video, I'll be adding timestamps so you could click through and add in ideas from what you actually want to learn. By the way, do you guys like my new lamp? I love it so much. It just gives me an aura. Alright you guys, let's start with number one. Instead of trying to go with full coverage makeup, I know it is very tempting, but if you're trying to achieve a very nice and glowy skin, or skin that looks like your skin but a little bit better, like wallets and a little bit more covered, and you're not trying to look cakey, what you're going to do is going to go for skin tints. I have a few that I've chosen here, which is going to be the one from L'Oreal, there's one from Naked Sundays, and also my favorite one from Estee Lauder. Yes, I know that the shades are all different, but I use them for different seasons. My current favorite is obviously going to be Estee Lauder because of how light the shade is, and look at me, I'm paper white right now, girl. You will have a natural glow with skin tint, so if you're trying to look nice and you don't want any cakey looking skin, I would go for a skin tint because you're gonna have that beautiful glow, as well as you're not going to look like you're doing too much. But before I go ahead and add in my foundation or skin tint, I want to make sure that my skin is nicely prepped. So I'm going to go in with my favorite one currently. This is Beauty of Josie on Glow Repolishing Milk. This is a beautiful one because it exfoliates my skin really gently, meaning leaving it really nice and glowy. As of right now, I did apply it in the morning. Do you see this naturally glowing skin? I did not add any other product. There's like literally nothing, no grease. This is just the natural glow. I'm going to apply it around my cheek zone area. I usually don't add it with a cotton pad. I just don't want excess rubbing for no reason. So I literally just tap in the product most of the time. It leaves it really nice, dry. Not dry meaning like it just gets really absorbed and it's not sticky. This is perfect under the makeup. And literally you could use it at any point of the day. To add in an extra glow under your makeup, I do recommend a primer or some sort. I currently don't use primers, but I use something that would accelerate the glow. So currently this is my favorite product. I just got this from Glow Recipe. This is Watermelon Glow Niacinamide Dewdrops, and it actually makes my skin look nice, dewy. And we are getting closer to spring, so this is my favorite time to have that nice glowy looking skin. In the winter, I do prefer a little bit more on a matte face, but in the summer and spring, I usually get that glow back. We want healthy looking skin back again. I'm going to add in a few drops around my face. It's really nice and soothing. It also leaves my skin looking dewy right before, but it also does not look greasy at all. It does have like a very iridescent glow. Maybe there is an aspect of glitter, but I don't mind it as well because I will be adding a little bit of the skin tint, which is going to cover it, but will leave my skin really nicely. Now I'm going to go in with the Estee Lauder. I'll just apply a few drops around my cheek zone area as well as the forehead. Then I like to brush everything through with my blending brush or foundation brush. This will give me a more of an airbrushed look. If you want to use Beauty Blender, you could obviously do so. That will also keep in the moisture out. But if you're looking for a more dewy look or make more natural skin-like effect, I would suggest going with the brush first, and then you could finish off with a Beauty Blender. As you can see, I am not blending it by just rubbing the product around. I am tapping the product in, meaning it's going to really nicely distribute throughout my face. It's not going to be streaky because I am placing and pressing the product into my face and all of the crevices. Yes, I will still have some creasing around my eye zone area and also under eyes. This is just a natural way of skin tints doing, and also because of my skin, it's a little bit more on an oilier side, so it's going to do that before I set it. But after I do set everything, everything should look really nice and seamless. All right, our first steps are done. We are now ready for our contour. Yes, contour is the next step that I would recommend to do because we don't want to conceal the things that we may mess up later. I see a lot of people make a mistake at this step, so that is why I would suggest doing the contour at this moment. I know that the contours are super hard to choose, especially for something that you might think is so simple, choosing your own shade. But it is at the same time the most hardest thing ever, and I would consider that for any product. That could be blush, eyeshadow, concealer, foundation, etc. It's super hard to find shades, especially in the drugstore if you're looking for more affordable prices, but then also going to luxury brands and they would not have your shade. Choosing a shade that will be a little bit more on a cooler side would be the right answer when you're going for contour. If you're looking for a bronzed up look, a bronzer is going to be more on the orangier reddish side. It really depends on what you're looking for, but I would suggest for a contour, not bronzing, for a contour you go ahead with a cool tone. I have two examples here. This one is going to be one from e.l.f., which is Halo Glow. Yes, it does seem to be more on the orangier side, but this, when you look at your face, you could see that when you have some shading here, it doesn't give you orange. It gives you more of like a grayish or like a darker color of your skin. So if you're going to go for an orange, this will give you a bronzed up look. But if you're going to go for something like a grayer or a cool tone, this will give you a really nice contour or shadow. I hope I explained it well to you guys, and I hope that is helpful. I'm trying to explain it as much as possible so that it makes sense. I know that being a beginner in makeup is super hard, so I'm just going to make it very simple for you all. I'm going to go with the cream contours. As you noticed, I'm currently on a phase of cream products, so I'm not mixing in my powders and I'm not mixing in my creams. So I'm just using cream with just creams. Powder is going to be after I set everything with powder. So yeah, this way we are not going to have patchy looks on our face. We're gonna have everything look nicely airbrushed. To have the best control of your product on your face, I would suggest putting it on either a plate for mixing or go ahead and put it on the back of your hand like I always do. This is just the best way to control the amount of product that goes on your face. The amount of product that I've added on here is actually excessive, so we're not going to use as much. We're just going to use a little. But we could definitely use it for all over the face to give a little bit more of a shadow, like around the forehead, around the eye zone area, under the eyes, around the jawline to chisel it, around the lip area, the nose contour, the obvious, and of course the cheeks. I have a contour brush like this one. This is a dense brush, so it will give me the most chiseled out look. This is what I would recommend for contouring. I'll go ahead and just mix in the product with my brush like this. As you can see, I'm tapping it in so that I cover the most of the area with the equal amount of product on the brush. This will just make it less patchy. If you have ever contoured with self-tan, this looks very similar, doesn't it? Trust me, you're going to give yourself the most airbrushed look with this technique. I'll just apply it as so before I go ahead with anything else. Jawline. Now I'll leave this brush on the side and I'll take a fluffy blending brush. We'll go ahead and tap the product in with a little bit of a swivel motion. We're not going to do that too much because we don't want to spread the product all over. We're gonna just focus on the cheek zone area. This will give me the most lifted look. As you can see, this one is a little bit more on the orangier side, but if you're looking for more of a contoury look, like I said, cool tone shades are going to be your best friend. Since my foundation is a little bit more on the lighter area, this is what I need. This is still a cool tone contour. There is bronzers that are really orangier. Do you see how well this is blending into my hairline? It's blending as a shadow, which is a little bit darker than my skin tone initially. This way it creates a cool tone, not a bronzed up face. So it just creates a really nice shadow. Very subtle. We're not having too much product on our face. Now for the jawline, I'll just go ahead and air it out like this. I don't like to put too much product on my jawline as it does look a little unnatural. So we're just gonna blend that as much as possible. If I do add too much, I go ahead and just add it over to my neck so I look a little bit more tan than just like dirty. Do you see how around my face I created a very subtle shadow? It doesn't look overwhelming. Still have a lot of product on the back of my hand to use around my eye zone area and of course my nose contour and the lip that I mentioned. But like I said, we're not doing too much. We're also looking nicely contoured. As you can see, it does not look sharp. It does not look really edgy. What I mentioned before is that I will add a concealer later after my blush, just so that everything looks nice and clean. I'm going to clean everything after with the concealer. This is the reason why I would suggest to do it before the concealer. Now for the nose contour, when you're picking a brush, I currently have this one from the Oki brushes. As you can see, it's flat, so it will be really nice and easy to work with, as well as it's really nice and fanned out, so it will be really nice to blend everything out. I have spoke about this brush prior in my videos. I love Oki brushes. Those are the best Korean brushes that I have ever tried, and currently this one is a really easy brush for my nose contour specifically. I'll go ahead and take whatever is left on the back of my hand and then I'll add a little bit of a product firstly around the tip of my nose. This will create a small shadow as well as just make it a little bit more smaller. As you can see, my nose is quite small, but it is a little bit on a thicker or a wider side. So I do like to thin it out, and I would just add it as close as possible to the tip of the nose. My main focus on my nose specifically is going to be the tip. Then I'm thinning it out towards my brow bone just a little bit. I don't like to add too much product here because my nose is a little bit more flatter. So if I add too much product, it does tend to look a little bit more dirtier. So I'll just do the same thing with whatever is left on the brush here so that I don't add too much product. Fanning it out and then adding a little bit more on the tip. What I like to do right after is add in whatever is left on the brush around my tip. This way it just creates a little bit of a button nose, which I love to go for. This is just a personal preference. Now I do still have a lot of product on the back of my hand. What I'm going to do using the same brush is going to add it a little bit around my lip contour. The lip contour is going to open up my lips a little bit more. It's not going to make it look drastically change in size, but it does give a little bit more of a shadow. As you can see here, I do have a natural shadow. And if I add a little bit more, it just gives me an illusion of a little bit of a bigger, more opened lip. Just a little life hack for you all. Now my favorite part is around the eye zone. I'll go ahead and add it right at my brow bone, just giving a shadow right here because I do have a hooded eye. I want to decrease the amount of visibility around my hooded eye zone area. While we let that sit just a little bit, I'll go ahead and take a little bit more of a fluffier but also dense brush, and I'll just blend everything as I did my contour. So what I do is just press everything in and just drag it around the zone, not pulling the product away. We're just making sure that it looks nicely blended around the zone that we have added, so it doesn't defeat the purpose of us adding it right at that area. The only thing that I would though do for that purpose is do it around the brow bone and just drag it over to the eye. This will just give it a little bit more of that shadow. Do you see that? Do you see how we did not add too many products and not excess amount of product onto our face, but it looks already like we did a lot of things just because of the technique that I'm using. My face has drastically changed from what it looked because I changed the shape of my nose, just changed the shape of my face and skin color. It looks more even, it looks a lot more glowier, but it does still look quite natural. when I'm going to add in the blush, you're just gonna see how much more bright my face looks. It's going to give a little bit more. You do look like you went on a vacation. Like, that is what it's gonna give. And that is what we want, because we wanna be asked, are you in love? Why are you so glowy? That's what I want people to ask me. I don't want to be corny, but yeah, let's move on. This is like my third and most favorite step. Blush before concealer will give you more of an airbrushed and more clean and sleek look. This will also conceal and brighten your under eyes. I'm sure you've seen a hack of putting red lipstick or like red pigment around your eyes and then putting concealer, and it will just make your eyes brighten. This is a way of kind of color correcting your face. Your face is going to be instantly brighter with a blush. I just guarantee that for sure. I have two of my favorite products here, Fee blushes, and I just love how their blushes look. I am obsessed with the blurred out effect, but if you're trying to learn blush, I would suggest starting with this because they have the most beautiful cool tones, the most brighter warm tones, whatever you want for your skin they have. And also it's just so much easier to choose from and so much easier to use. This product could go around my cheeks, it could go around my lips, my nails. It goes everywhere, girl. I talk about these products so often. Go with cool tones if you're trying to get that more of that nicely natural looking skin, but also red. I'm sure you've seen a trend of using red blush to give you most the natural flush of color. I'm sure you've noticed if people get sunburned, they get red shade around their cheek zone area. This is the most natural looking blush if you use red. It's not pink, it's literally red. And that is what I'm going to use just to show you. I'm using Free. This is called Girls. That's super cute. Yeah, I just love this blush so much. So just one squish will give you enough for the side of your cheek. And I would like to add it right under my eye and then drag it around my cheek zone area. As you can see, this one has blurring effect, so it is super easy to use it. This is why I like them so much. So if you're a beginner, I would suggest with something that is like this in consistency rather than going with cream products or powder. Well, this one is super easy to conceal and super easy to blend out. Quite of a little bit of product, but you see the pigment is not overpowering. It is super buildable, but in person it's a little bit more brighter and looks a little bit more natural, while on camera it doesn't look like anything is on there. I'm telling you, it just looks super natural. But for the sake of this video, I'm just going to add a little bit more. I like to add in a little bit here. This is just a personal preference. This way I'm going to look a little bit more sun-kissed and a little bit more natural. This is just a life hack that I've seen a lot of these girls from Pinterest having. For my blush, I like to use a little bit more streaky brushes, or I could use my fingers. I love blending my blushes with my fingers, but for this video, I'm going to go ahead and use the Hourglass number 15. This is perfect for cream blushes, and this will just give more of a faded out look. This blush is already giving a nice blurred out effect. If this brush is going to make it a little bit more blended out, a little bit more seamless. As you can see, it has a little bit more of those specks sticking out, and this will just give a little bit more of an even look. But yeah, I do suggest looking into brushes, but if you can't, I would just go with your fingers. Alright, this is not a tip, but I could definitely suggest some things. I had really struggled with my eyebrows growing up, so I picked up a pencil. I said this in my previous videos, pencils are just a little bit more easier to work with. If you're pretty heavy-handed with your eyebrows, a pencil is going to help you because it will break if you are heavy-handed. And I am pretty heavy-handed and my eyebrows could look really dark. So what I've learned is I actually do my eyebrows after I do my base, like everything that I just did. This way it looks a little bit more natural, so whatever I did is not going to overpower, because I used to do my eyebrows beforehand and they would look a little bit too dark for my makeup look. So I will do them like after I do my base. So I have brushed out my eyebrows and I'm going to lightly go with the eyebrow pencil. I'm not going to press hard. Literally, I am not pressing at all, just drawing small strokes and filling in the gaps Do you see how much more natural this is looking? I mean, I have no eyebrows, but still. This looks a lot more natural than even a previous video that I had. I'm very heavy-handed with my eyebrows. Alright you guys, my eyebrows, my base is done. Now it's time for a cleanup. For concealer, I would not choose a color that is too bright or too dark. I would choose something that is very close to your foundation shade, or maybe a shade a little bit lighter. Maybe a 1, or if you're pushing it, maybe 2 shades lighter. Currently, my favorite one is going to be from the Thread, and I have used it in a previous video, and this is day 3 of me using it, and I love it because of how liquidy it is and how nicely it flows around my face. So it's super nice to blend it with anything, and I'm going to use it for the sake of this video just to show you how nice and easy it is to maneuver it. This is what I do look into a concealer. I don't try to go for something that will be dry. I try to go for something that is going to be more on the liquid side. This one though does have pretty good coverage, but if you're looking for something that is a little bit more natural, I would not go for full coverage concealers. Go for something that is a little bit more on a lighter medium coverage. So don't put too much concealer. Go very light. I'm going to show you the areas where I like to add it. Around your eyes, like so, just to brighten up. This is enough product around your eyes. Go around your nose. Usually the smile lines are pretty dark. Now to clean up the contour, just a little bit, and a little bit on the chin, and like a line on the forehead. Not necessary because the forehead looks very flawless. I'm not gonna lie. This is my concealer. If you are pushing it or you want to add in a little bit more, you could go ahead and like add a line around your nose. Use this one for blending out the foundation. I'm going to use the other side for the concealer. I have let it sit for a couple of seconds, like I'd say a minute maybe, and now I'm going to press the product in. Like every product that I talk about, I'm going to press it right in. So I'm not going to focus around my eyes just yet. I'm going to focus underneath first. I'm focusing it right underneath because I don't want to make my under eye like where it creases. This will create unnecessary creases that I will definitely have because look, I have oily eyelids. It's definitely creasing over there, and I know that for sure. I'm not running away from that. So yeah, I'm just letting the concealer dry a little bit more before I go ahead and press it into my under eye, and this way it's just going to be a little bit more brightened. Definitely the concealer makes a very drastic change onto our face. So yeah, we're definitely going ahead with the next step. Now the powder is something that you have been waiting for because we cannot wait to set that face, right? We always want that airbrushed finish. Yes, we do. Yeah, the airbrush finish is going to be accomplished with the powder. I have 2 sets of powder, which is going to be loose, which I have from e.l.f. and also pressed powder from Charlotte Tilbury. I'm finishing up that product, so definitely wanted to include it in this video. But for the loose product, I love to add it right under my eyes or for baking. But if you're starting off with makeup and you're a beginner, I would not suggest using baking techniques just because that might cause cakiness. We don't want cakiness, we want flawless finish. So what I would suggest is use loose powder by tapping it off and then putting it on the eyes. So let me just show it to you. I will go ahead and add in some powder over to the back of the cap, like so. And I'll go ahead and take a fluffy brush, and I'll take a smaller brush so it's easier for me to use it around my eyes down area. And I'll go ahead and use it with the powder. Do you see how much product is on here? That is quite of a product. A main mistake people do is not tapping it off. So tap off that excess. We have to see that the product is off the brush, mostly off. There's also Tyson's hair on it too. Off. And then we're going to press it in. We are not swiveling the powder around. We are just going to press it in. You're gonna see the moment of truth right in the second, you guys. I'm sorry for the tapping noises. Do you see the difference? Do you see how much more flawless my skin looks on this side rather than this one? This one is good. This one is still perfect. It looks nice and glowy, but this one is an airbrushed finish. We are giving professional in here. Yes. Now we're gonna go ahead and do that around the eyelid area, but before we go ahead and do that, just make sure that nothing is creased. So press in the brush and then press in the powder. I actually like to add a little bit more on here because my eyelids are so oily. Now let's do the other side. Alright you guys, and now we are done with the powder. I usually don't add too much. Too much could also cause patchiness, and this is why I just try to stay away from too much powder. If you want to bake, I would suggest just baking around the jawline. This will give you more of that chiseled out look that you probably wish for. So yeah, this is just my suggestion. You could take my tip or not. I would not add too much powder around your face if you're just starting, because powder is not the best friend, mostly of mine, but I just like glowy skin. Probably this is why it's my preference, but I wouldn't add too much because it may cause patchiness. Now for the rest of the makeup, like I said, I will be adding a little bit of the powder contour that I mentioned before, and this is the cool tones that I've mentioned earlier. Now I'm going to take the brush and add in this contour. This is the lightest shade. This way I'm just going to create a little bit more of a shadow around my cheekbones. This will give me more of that structure, just a little bit more hollowed out, slightly going over the contour that I have already added. This will just create a little bit more of that hollowed out effect, a little bit or more of the narrow face. Now let's move on to the eyes, one of my favorite parts. I'm going to be using the new palette from e.l.f. and I'm going to use most of the lighter shades. If you want a look of natural eyes, the ones that you probably see on Pinterest or on your feed on Instagram, you probably want to use an eyeshadow palette that is going to be closer to your tone of skin. So something very, very natural, maybe nude. So I would actually use eyeshadow before you go in with eyeliner. I'm going to go ahead and use eyeliner as well for today's video. But if you're going to use some eyeshadow, I'll first start with a base color, like a white, like a light color like this one, tan or beige. And I'll just press it into the whole eyelid as a base color. This will just create a blank canvas for what we're going to be adding, even if we're going to be adding just an eyeliner and mascara. This will give a very nice and neat look to the eye, and your makeup will just look a little bit more professional. Also, I do find that this technique also brighten up the eye and it makes you look a little bit more awake. Now I want to take a little bit more of a darker shade, which is going to be right here and right here, just mixing them two, tapping it out, and then adding it over to the outer corner and just focusing right at the outer corner, fanning it outward so that it blends in more seamlessly. I'm adding this because I'm going to be adding a little bit of a brown eyeliner. I'm not going to go with black eyeliner because if you're a beginner, you know how black eyeliner is a little bit harder to use. So if you want to learn makeup and make it look a lot more natural, because makeup does change the way we look, but if you want to love yourself in makeup, you gotta do makeup that is going to be close to your complexion, something that will actually benefit your look and will emphasize your beauty rather than changing it completely. So something that is not drastically different from your skin color is what is going to be recommended to use. I'm going to be taking a more of a pencil brush, and I'll go ahead and use this taupey color. I will be using that right under my eyes. This will just give a little bit more of a shadow. I like that look because it makes my eyes look a little bit more of a cat eye effect. And if you don't like that effect, I would just skip this part. But I do like to add in it so that I could interconnect it with my eyeliner after. This just makes it a little bit more together. I don't know how to say it. It just looks a little bit more complete with this technique. As you can see, since I chose a color that is not so drastically bright, this is not going to give you that upfront look of something is there. It just gives a little bit of a shadow, and looks like it's barely there. This is what we want. Now for the eyeliner, something that I probably am a little bit shy of sharing, but this is just a technique that will make your life a little bit more easier. So what I would suggest is just using a brown eyeliner, not black. The brown eyeliners are actually going to give you the most natural looking effect. I will just create literally a line on the most outer corner right here, like so, and I'll just let it sit for a couple of minutes and not let it move. Then you could either use your fingernails. If you're scared to use your fingernails around your eyes, that is fine. You could take an eyebrow brush that looks like this, so an angled brush, and what you're gonna do is just take it as an angle and then just spread it over. This will create a shadow slash an eyeliner with your brown eyeliner. This will give the most perfect and the most beautiful line that will connect with your lashes after and will give you the most natural looking effect. This is my current favorite technique of using and doing my eyelashes and my eyeliner. It is super important for me to curl the lashes, so make sure you do that. This will just give your lashes the most volume and the most coolest effect ever. So please don't skip this part. I did skip this part a lot when I was younger, and I was wondering why didn't my lashes look the way everyone else's lashes look. This is why. Now, if you were looking for a really nice way to spice up your lashes, if you have oily eyelids, if you're looking for an easy use mascara, I would go for thermal mascara or mascara that is called tubing in other scents. This is a tubing mascara that I love the most from Hourglass right now. This gives my lashes the most beautiful effect. I do like the clumpiness of it because I don't know. I just like when my lashes look like they have product on them. If you're looking for more of a natural look, I would go for something like Lancome. They have really nice bristles, which look super, super natural. Unfortunately, though, it does smear onto my eyelids, and I really don't like it, unfortunately, in that sense. But the look of my lashes look so nice. But for the sake of my eyelids being oily, no matter how much powder I add on, I have to use a mascara that is tubing so it doesn't smear onto my eyelids. Tubing mascaras is like a really recent discovery for me. I've never heard of them before, and I cannot ever go back to normal mascaras. Like waterproof mascaras don't even do it for me anymore. They're so hard to remove, but this one is just so easy. I don't rub on my eyes, and makes my life so much more easier, and I love the effect of my lashes. Now I'm gonna add a little bit onto the lower lashes as well. Alright, these are my lashes, and this is pretty much what I'm working with. I love how elongated my eyelashes look just with this eyeliner technique, and this is my current favorite way of doing the makeup, and I've got so many compliments on it. So yeah, I do suggest for you to try it out and see how it works well for yourself. Now let's make everything a little bit more glowier. I like to add in a little bit of highlighter at this point. My current favorite highlighter is going to be MAC because of the pearl iridescent look it gives, and it just gives the most natural looking glow because of how small the glitter specks are. I love how I could just add it over to my nose and it looks like my nose just gets sun-kissed, meaning it just reflects the light super naturally. I'll go ahead and do the same thing a little bit on the cheekbones with my fingers and make this look a little bit more glowier. If I want to spice things up, I could add it over to my eyelids. This will just brighten up the area as well. Since I did mention that we have added the contour, we really don't need much product around the lips now. Look how pretty the contour looks. We could literally just go with a lip gloss and we're like looking super natural. But I would suggest going with a lip liner. I like to use a lip liner that is very close to my lips. This is LA Girl Pumpkin. Sorry, this is Sugar and Spice from LA Girl. And what I like to do is I don't like to overline too much. I just like to go on the contour. Only the tip right here on the cupid's bow, I like to overline just so that there's a little bit more shadow. Another trick, if you want your lips to look even, so this side does not look skinnier than this side, is go in the same direction. That might be just a simple step, but trust me, you may have been doing it wrong. If you started your eyeliner from end to top, then from here you start from top to end. You may have done it wrong because your sides would have looked different sizes. I'll go ahead and start from the end to the top on both sides. I'm not overlining, I'm just adding a little bit more shadow around the tip. This makes my lip look a little bit more open. Because of the contour, our lips look a lot more bigger. If you want the life hack of bigger lips, this is what you should do. Now I want to go ahead and add in the blush over to the lips so that I could get a little bit of that red color onto my lips. What we had in the beginning to this. So now what we have here right now, we achieved with very simple and easy steps, but very important steps to follow. I think you will do a really good job. Let me know in the comment section if you've tried these tips and if they worked for you. I'm sure they did. And here we have it, the final look. I have let my hair down, and yes, I have put in some hair extensions. I am so obsessed. I miss my long hair, but this gives the most amazing effect. I love how this turned out. I love how simple and easy these steps are to follow. And if you're a beginner, I think they're really cool. If you enjoyed this video and you stayed until the end, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn the notifications on so that you don't miss out any of my uploads. I try to upload as much as possible. I try to listen as much as possible, so write your comments in the comment section below. I read all of them. Thank you again, but for now, goodbye. Can we please talk about my lamp? Or not?